So today we're going to be taking an honest look at Disney Star Wars, as well as talking about some very interesting rumors that have been coming out about Kathleen Kennedy possibly leaving Lucasfilm, as well as Disney possibly retconning the entire sequel trilogy. So before getting into the rumors and stuff, I wanted to give a little bit of backstory as far as who I am as a Star Wars fan. So if you want to skip straight to the rumors, timestamp is right here. So yeah, basically I've been a Star Wars fan for as long as I can remember. Growing up, I watched all of the animated shows. I played all of the games that I could. I even liked The Force Unleashed 2 for its gameplay, but the story was trash. So when it was announced that George Lucas was selling Star Wars to Disney, I was actually pretty excited because I thought George Lucas was basically going to be making his trilogy under the guise of Disney, so that if the fans hated it like they did the prequels, he wouldn't get any of the backlash and he would follow Disney. Obviously, that's not what happened. So fast forward to when The Force Unleashed comes out. I actually saw that movie 3 times in its opening weekend alone. I really liked that movie. I was super excited for where that story was going to go. I was super interested in who Rey was. I had a bunch of different theories for who she was. Was she a Skywalker? Was she a clone? Was she like some Palpatine weapon that he'd created? I was just very excited to see where that went. There were definitely some flaws that I didn't like that Han died, but seeing Luke at the end of the movie had me really excited for me to get to see Luke Skywalker on screen again. So going into The Last Jedi, I went in completely blind. I was super excited. I didn't want to be spoiled by anything. I thought we were about to get Empire Strikes Back Part 2. And basically I said, what the 3 different times during that movie. The first time was when Luke threw the lightsaber. Second time was when Leia turned into Mary Poppins. And then the third time was when Rose saved Finn and said, we're going to win by saving what we love. Didn't really know how to feel about the movie. I really wanted to love that movie. But then I saw it a second time and I kind of talked to my friends, and I just, knowing that Luke died at the end and knowing and like watching Luke be this just decrepit old man, I hated it. The entire movie, I felt like it was pointless. It took the plot in a complete circle. Nothing happened. All that happened was they started, the rebels are on the run, and then it ended with the rebels are on the run, except they killed Luke Skywalker and they killed Snoke. Literally nothing changed. It just felt like a complete waste of a movie to me. And it totally destroys Luke Skywalker's legacy. And I was super mad about it for a really long time. And I'm still, I can't get too into it because this video will just turn into me ranting about The Last Jedi. I was very disappointed in Disney Star Wars, especially the reaction of the fans, basically calling them losers who hated women. Like, obviously that's not an issue. We really love Ahsoka. We all liked Rey when she first came out. It was after The Last Jedi came out. We were like, what is this? But I was kind of feeling a little bit more hopeful when I made this video. Single-player story game had been announced. Mandalorian had been announced. And they announced that the Clone Wars was going to get finished. And so I was genuinely excited about those 3 things. And I gotta say, they delivered. The Rise of Skywalker, I really wasn't interested in it. After they kind of destroyed everything, I just didn't really care about the new characters. I cared about Rey and Finn in the beginning, but then they just didn't do anything interesting with them. But I gotta say, Mandalorian came out. I loved The Mandalorian. That was incredible. Like, I had absolutely no idea that they were going to have a little baby Yoda in there. Like, that was super surprised by that. That took that show in a completely different direction than I thought they were going to take it. I really love that show. It was exactly what Star Wars needed at the time. And I really think that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau have proven that they know how to make Star Wars, especially Dave Filoni. And then The Rise of Skywalker came out, and the first time I saw it, I felt like I was in this like 3-hour fever dream. It was kind of like being in a car going 1,000 miles an hour, and you really can't stop and look at anything. I liked 2 scenes in it. I really liked Luke on the island as a Force ghost, catching the lightsaber, saying a Jedi's weapon deserves more respect, and then him picking up his X-Wings and pulling it out of the water like Yoda did. And I really liked those 2 scenes just because they were basically a spit in the face of Rian Johnson, which I'm here for that. And then I also thought that the scene with Ben Solo turning back into Ben from Kylo talking with Han Solo was also really well done. I really didn't like the ending the first time I watched it. I thought it was really cringy having Rey be like, I'm of the Jedi. Like, just Anakin Skywalker didn't have anything to do with finishing Palpatine. Like, they couldn't even have him as a Force ghost. They just have him say one line. Like, that's no. Then I saw it again a couple months ago on DVD, and it's just not a good movie. It doesn't make any sense. Palpatine's motivation makes no sense. The ending's pretty trash. They killed the only Skywalker left, and Rey took over the mantle as a Skywalker, even though she's a Palpatine. It's just overall, they didn't have a lot to work with, and they didn't succeed with any of that. I think it's a very good ending to a trilogy that is basically a multi-billion-dollar game of telephone. And then Clone Wars Season 7 came out, and I have to say, those last 4 episodes are seriously the best Star Wars that I've seen come out. Like, I really think that, like, everything. In my lifetime, I think that's the best Star Wars that's come out. The Siege of Mandalore gives Empire Strikes Back a run for its money. It's a really, really phenomenally well done 4-episode. It's basically a movie, like a 2-hour movie. It's everything I loved about Star Wars. Ahsoka does just incredible job, and then you get the ending with her and Rex and Darth Maul. It just is such a good ending. I will say I was a little bit worried there in the middle when they had those random sisters dumping their spice into the middle of the, I was gonna say ocean, to the space. I was like, what is going on? But that Siege of Mandalore totally made up for it. Really good job, Dave Filoni. I also want to quickly mention that I really loved Jedi Fallen Order. I thought that was a really, really good game. I was really excited that they're actually doing a single-player story-based Star Wars game, and they did a really good job with it. It was very well done. I gotta give EA props and the studio for that. They did a really good job with that game. And so I think an honest look at Disney Star Wars is that outside of the sequel trilogy, it's been very good and pretty bad. Rogue One was good. I thought it was a little slow, but I loved all of the Vader scenes. I actually like Solo. Most people didn't go see that. I thought Rebels was pretty good. I didn't think it was as good as Clone Wars, nowhere near that. It just was a little too kiddie for me. Like, it wasn't quite to the quality of Avatar, but I still thought it was really good. And I think that's kind of Dave Filoni's thing, is this, he's kind of like George Lucas. Like, there's some really good stuff, and then there's also some stuff that's like, eh. And I think that's kind of Star Wars. Not childish, but it's lighthearted, and then some stuff is really, really good. Getting into the sequel trilogy, I think that has basically taken the ship of Star Wars and crashed it into the iceberg. I think it's really, really hurt the brand of Star Wars. And so with the current state of Star Wars basically being in limbo with no real prospects for anything coming next besides an Obi-Wan series that is kind of like, who knows if that's happening, and then The Mandalorian. And other than that, there's really nothing else going on. So with these rumors kind of coming out that part of Lucasfilm is looking for a way to basically retcon the sequel trilogy and just start over, I actually really buy that, especially when you take into account that the method that they're describing them being to do that is using a creation from Dave Filoni. So Dave Filoni created the World Between Worlds in Star Wars Rebels, which is basically this, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's this world between worlds that can kind of bend time and space, and Ezra uses it to save Ahsoka from being killed by Darth Vader. And so the idea behind basically sending the sequel trilogy into Legends is that Palpatine used the world between worlds and transported himself from the shaft after Vader threw him in the Death Star 2 into the world between worlds and then into Exegol. And so the idea would be that somebody would stop him in the world between worlds as soon as he gets out of it in Exegol, or something along those lines, and basically kill him right where he should have died in Return of the Jedi. And so Palpatine is no more. So the sequel trilogy doesn't happen. Probably this stuff will happen in Mandalorian Season 3. That's where I think it's likely that they could do this, if this is going to happen at all. I think you could start seeing some early signs of this as early as Mandalorian Season 2. They've already announced that Ahsoka is going to be in it. They've got the actress who's going to play her. And I think the way it could work is basically somehow the Mandalorians figure out that Palpatine survived. You may have Rey involved, her coming back and basically trying to prevent all of this from even happening and trying to get a better life for Ben and giving Ben back her life that he gave her and basically making the universe better for everybody. I would actually think that's a pretty cool way to end Rey's story. And so you could have Rey finding this world between worlds, going back in time, finding Ahsoka, finding possibly Luke Skywalker. You could have him finding the Mandalorians, Baby Yoda. They could all go in there together, defeat Palpatine in that world between worlds, or in Exegol, and basically sending the entire sequel trilogy into non-existence, into Legends. Right now, The Mandalorian is kind of stuck in this limbo land where if they want to have that be like the continuation of Star Wars, there's not as much freedom as they can work with, because at some point they have to bring it up to where Luke creates a Jedi Order and then Ben slaughters everything, and it has to tie into the sequel trilogy. And so this would give them opportunity to do whatever they want, and they could actually continue the entire Star Wars, the canon Star Wars universe from The Mandalorian season 2 or 3. I think that's where they could be doing this. And the other really interesting rumor that kind of ties into this is rumors about Kathleen Kennedy leaving. So her contract expires in 2021, and after the Mandalorian behind-the-scenes documentary released, which is basically kind of an audition for Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, especially Dave Filoni, for why they should be in charge of Star Wars. Like, after I saw that documentary, I was like, yeah, this is definitely, they made this so that they could try and move these two into the head positions of Star Wars, or at least in the creative direction. And so the rumors at Lucasfilm is basically that Lucasfilm was divided into the Kathleen Kennedy faction. Here, use my screen. They're divided in the Kathleen Kennedy faction and then the George Lucas supporting faction, which is kind of like the Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau camp, Mandalorian people, I would assume, and then kind of the Kathleen Kennedy fans. So the rumors about Kathleen Kennedy being forced out is basically that they had a meeting with her, and no one else was invited. It was very high-level executives, Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy, and basically she came out of that meeting, and it's, your contract's not getting renewed, and that she is going to go start her own female-run production company or something like that, and so that any of the Lucasfilm employees that want to go do that with her are welcome to go do that. I don't know if that's true. So even if those rumors aren't completely true, that she's going to go run this production company or whatever, I can't see any reason for them to continue her contract. She's really done a really bad job as the leader of Lucasfilm. The main bread and butter, the sequel trilogy, the sales for it are like that, $2.2 billion, 1.3, and then barely past $1 billion. Like, that's not trending in the right direction. And I think the only real way to bring back a ton of the disenfranchised fans is to do something like this. Get rid of Kathleen Kennedy. Her contract expires in 2021. Then in 2021, you could have Dave Filoni's creation, The War Between Worlds, and then they retcon the sequel trilogy. And then Star Wars Celebration 2022, they announced that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are going to be the new heads for Star Wars and Lucasfilm, and that they present their new plan for what's going to come next in the Star Wars universe, with post-sequel trilogy being put that into Legends. And that would generate so much hype for Star Wars. It's insane. Like, that would 100% bring, I would bet like 95% of the disenfranchised fans back. That would bring back so many fans if they put Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni in charge of Star Wars. And so I think from a business standpoint, Disney's got to be hurting right now. Like, they've delayed the release of Mulan like months now. I think the financial pressures of the bottom line could force Disney executives' hands and try and turn Star Wars back into a profitable franchise. And I think this is the way you do it, putting Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau at the helm, get rid of anyone who was not a supporter of George Lucas's visions, and then bring back George Lucas's, at least his ideas in some aspect, for a new trilogy, is like the George Lucas trilogy or something like that. And that would make a ton of money. So I hope they do it. I think that'd be a really good business decision, but may not happen. And obviously these are just rumors. This all could be just completely fake. We will know for sure if Kathleen Kennedy gets her contract renewed. This ain't happening. And so yeah, that's all I have for this one. Hit that subscribe button. Face reveal at 1,000 subscribers. It's gonna happen, guys. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this, and I'll catch y'all